Alright, another top 10 ranking, this time on my personal favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime ace monsters with their alternate forms. Because of course it's a sign of their growth or going even beyond their base form, and evolutions are always awesome. So the only rule that applies is that there must be a base form of the monster and it must be the evolution in the anime. It doesn't have to be a main character, it could even be a main villain. Or even side characters as well, but most of the time it's going to be related to the important cast members. And also, I am not putting fuse aces here. Basically, a fusion of two different characters into one evolved ace monsters. Those are not going to be revolved around here unless if it's the same character. But if it's two different characters aces as one, I am not counting those. And I am ranking these based on their design and not by their effects, and also the build up to it for the anime moment, because some of them have more meaning than the others. But anyway, with all those rules out of the way, let's begin. And remember, this is all based on my personal opinion, and some of these will be paired up because they have similar timings and reasons. So first off, on the bottom of my list, which is number 10, it's going to be Chaos number 101 and Chaos 73, both being evolved aces of Nash, one from the past and one from the present, hence why I decided to rank these both in the equal ranking. Basically, both of them are just cool evolved aces, especially number 101 where it could just constantly revive itself, and the way how original 101 is basically a arc ship with Dark Knight within it, and then the ship becomes the armor, which is pretty awesome, and Abyss Supra is just basically number 73 with just the chaos energy combined with the Barian power, which is pretty awesome itself. And then to number 9, it's going to be the Dimension Dragon evolutions, and that includes the Odd Eyes upgrade Pendulum Dragons as fusion monsters for some reason, the Dark Requiem Exceed Dragon, Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, along with Greedy Venom Fusion Dragon. If one gets upgraded, it's expected that all of them are going to get upgraded. Of course, Protag is going to get the most favorable upgrades, but the only thing is, the only ones that actually got built up was really the Odd Eyes upgrades and in a way, Clearwing. Everyone else, it just kind of shows up out of nowhere, and it's kind of just expected just because they're all Dimension Dragons. They are all awesome, just only wish that some of them were actually being used more. And also, I wish that Odd Eyes had its own summoning method upgrade, like the Overscale Pendulum Summon, because that would be awesome. And then to number 8, it is Chaos number 88, Disaster Leo. The Arc-like brothers return with a new power, hence the power of ranking up. Even though there wasn't really any build-up for this, the minute the brothers returned, cool stuff was definitely going to happen, and ranking up was definitely one of the cool ways to show sign of growth. Now when it comes to Gimmick Puppet, there's actually 3 rank ups, but at least for the number side, but I personally picked Disaster Leo because that's the ultimate final ace, especially the first time when number 88 summoned, it was the final ace of 4. And having your final ace evolve into something even stronger is pretty awesome actually, especially since Disaster Leo in the anime is actually quite ridiculous. Unaffected by card effects, burns your opponent 4k damage, which that is base health when it comes to the anime, but also has an auto win condition, which I have to say for a side character that actually has some importance, it's a very unique thing to have, honestly. Hence why this is one of my personal top 10s. And then to number 7, it is the Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon and Tachyon Dragon in their evolved states, being the Neo Galaxy Eyes versions, along with Prime Photon. So first off, Neo Photon is evolved because Kaito's anger basically made it evolve and go beyond his limits. Neo Tachyon evolved just because it wasn't really built up upon, other than the fact that Barian Force exists, so there's a way to enhance your main aces. And considering that Tachyon goes up against Photon, it was bound to have an evolved form, especially on the very first duel, being the first over 100 number, showing a rank up immediately as a silhouette kind of built some build up on Neo Tachyon over time. So the rivalry continues with the evolved state, but then Kaito goes even beyond his Galaxy Eyes and doesn't evolve it through anger but evolves it through hope. And there was also some build up to it, but what I really like is that Galaxy Eyes turns out to be a number, aka also part of Astro's memories. So yeah, all 3 evolved forms are pretty awesome just because they kind of go beyond their limits, and there was a bit of build up to each one of them. And then to number 6, I put Yubel the Ultimate Nightmare along with Numeronius Numeronia, 2 villains that go beyond even their ace monsters. Of course, being their ultimate forms and being a bit ridiculous on top of that, although the Ultimate Nightmare can arguably be not being ridiculous, but it goes beyond the first evolution and beyond ace, which is why I decided to pair this up with Numeronius Numeronia, because Numerous Numeronia itself is already ridiculous, especially in the anime, but even as Numeronius itself is already ridiculous, ridiculous, being 10k attack on base power, and also has the ability to nuke your opponent's board, but evolving it even further where there's an auto win condition and your opponent must attack 100k, yeah, that's kind of ridiculous. So these two are just simply here as being final aces of the villains. And not every villain has evolved aces, by the way. And now to number 5, it's Borreload Savage Dragon, one of the cards that actually have a bit of a build-up return for the character. So first off, the character who plays this, Revolver, was built up to return in the anime to basically do his shenanigans again, and Savage Dragon is basically a symbolization of his return and growth. Hence why this is the Tooting Bullet, and I really find this awesome. It's one of those aces that is returned very strong. In fact, it's even on the ban list currently of this time of video. And out of all the Borreload ace monsters that got evolved into the other summoning methods and actually were shown in the anime, Savage Dragon is the one that actually has the most impact. Of course, being the first one also helps as well, but every other time he duels with it, and also does something as well every time it shows up. Hence why I think Savage Dragon deserves a spot. And then to number 4, these two kind of showed up out of nowhere, but did have a bit of build up to it, and that is God Neos and number 99 Utopic Dragger. Basically, final ultimate forms of the respective ace monsters. God Neos is basically the combination of all 6 Neospacians combined, aka all 6 elements. Considering that there was triple contact fusion, there could have been the what if scenario where if all 6 of them combine into one, hence we get God Neos. But number 99 didn't really get any build up, it was just basically a final obstacle for the main protagonist himself. From his very own ace monster going to his ultimate form, going beyond all the numbers, hence number 99. And number 99 is basically the combination of every other Utopia into one, turned into a dragon, because combined with the Numeron code. So in many ways, I just put these two as equal just because they're basically final ultimate forms of the protagonist ace monsters basically. And now to number 3, it is Shooting Star Dragon and Red Nova Dragon. Just because these two were showing up around the same time, Shooting Star Dragon definitely had the build up, especially with Yusei trying to find a way to go beyond his limits. And for the first time, he basically self-evolved his Stardust Dragon into Shooting Star Dragon. And that first appearance and insert song is just awesome. And Red Nova Dragon also has a cool first appearance, even though there wasn't exactly too much of a build up for Red Nova Dragon until right after Shooting Star Dragon was actually summoned. But the way how Red Dragon Archfiend absorbs the Crimson Devil's power with the Crimson Dragon's help is just pretty awesome, hence why it becomes even more of a Dragon Devil itself with godlike power, and that's why I really like these two in their evolved states, especially since they do have the power to fight God. If only the other Signer Dragons were actually evolved in the anime. And into number 2, it's basically the ultimate or evolved forms of Stardust Dragon Firewall Dragon, Shooting Quasar Dragon, and Firewall Dragon Darkfluid. Basically the power of everyone combining into their one ace monster for the protagonist. Although Quasar did have a little bit more build-up, especially on the idea of Stardust Dragon breaking further his limits and having help from his other teammates to basically evolve him into his ultimate form, while Darkfluid, with Ai nearly sacrificing himself but having the power of all the other Ignises combined into Firewall Dragon, they're both kind of fitting as final aces to go up against the main villain. Especially in both cases, both of them do multi-attack and also have a negate ability, which is also pretty funny. But also going beyond form, Stardust Dragon goes to level 12, while Darkfluid being basically the first Link 5 of the protagonists, and one of the only other rare characters that actually summon a Link 5, besides the villains. So yeah, I have to kind of rank these equally just because they're evolved forms of the main aces combined with the power of everyone else. And then before I go to number 1, honorable mentions. So first off, Livestream Dragon. This one nearly made it to the list, but there was so much back and forth and retconning whether they want to make this as the 5th Signer Dragon or not. In fact, even at one point they even replaced Livestream Dragon with Blackwing Dragon because Blackwings are popular, but eventually they just kind of made it as a 6th Signer Dragon because now there's 6 for some reason, and it's the actual 5th Signer Dragon. And also in a way, it is the evolved form of Power Tool, even though Power Tool is more of a downgraded form, but I'll take it as the evolved form as well. And then we go to Dark Storm, Chaos Heart Earth Dragon, and Chaos of Arms. Just because these three were actually oppositions to the main character, but never had their evolved forms. In fact, one of them could have actually ranked up to rank 10 with the Chaos Heart Earth Dragon, and number 96 having a God complex of course evolves himself even further into the Dark Storm. But it's also cool that he steals some of Yuma's numbers that he took and evolves it as well, being one of the villain's previous ace monsters, being Coat of Arms, and evolves it into a chaos number as well. So I just put these three as kind of paired up together in this honorable mention just because they all are basically previous villain ace monsters that go up against Astral. And then finally another pair, it will be the Red Dragon Archfiend Tyrant along with the Neo Galaxy Cypher Dragon, basically evolved versions of the retrain aces of the previous cast members. Although these didn't really have any build up to it, it's just that we already know the characters, and of course they're just bound to evolve their aces. Although Jack, arguably, with Tyrant, does in a way have a little bit of a build up because he was basically a final obstacle in the tournament. But they were just bound to happen just because they were retrains of basically the original aces, so they're gonna of course evolve them as well. And finally to number 1, it is the Blue Eyes Shining Dragon. Technically there is a retrain of Deep Eyes considering that they are both considered the ultimate beyond form of Blue Eyes, but Blue Eyes Shining Dragon to me is probably the most coolest Blue Eyes monster there is. A monster that goes even beyond the ultimate dragon and can even fight the gods. Even though it was introduced in a terrible movie, it was shown defeating the god, and it's definitely an awesome evolution despite being Ultimate Dragon cracking open into a more mechanical like dragon. And it's still one of those monsters I want to really see a huge retrain of, even though technically we got Deep Eyes. But also for nostalgia reasons, Blue Eyes Shining Dragon was the first real super ultimate monster that I've seen, because I started with Pyramid of Light out of all movies, hence another reason why it's in my number 1. And so that's it for these listing on my personal favorite evolutions or alternate forms of ace monsters for characters. What do you guys think of it? What would you list? There's of course a lot of evolved forms in Yu-Gi-Oh! Especially since from dual monsters to Vrains, and even further than that arguably, has some pretty awesome evolved forms. And some of them have really cool build-ups to it, and some of them do come out of nowhere, and some could be arguably be expected just because it's a part of a group. But in that, go ahead and tell me your personal list below, because everyone can have their own opinions. But in that, that's it for this, and see you next time.